Sometimes I just wanna float away.
I've dated 2 Christian girls in my life.
So
but they were worlds apart.
Worlds apart in what sense?
So it goes back to what we were saying earlier. One was very part-time-ish, just living a life that I wouldn't say is necessarily in line with Christian values, but it's no sweat off my back. But I'm saying for her, I don't think that's how she would have liked to live her life. But I did date a Christian girl. I went on a date, with a Christian girl, and she talked about being very purposeful in dating, going to a date with an intention. So she was seeking marriage, and this was a really big thing to her.
Was that a conversation that occurred very early on?
Yeah, this was on the first date.
Right.
Because typically when I exchange numbers with girls, I don't do much talking on WhatsApp or text. I go straight to logistics. We arrange a date and we conversate on the date, because there's nothing to talk about on WhatsApp or the phone. I believe that if they want to see you, they're going to make themselves available. And if you have to jump through hoops to be able to see them, they're just not that interested in you.
Okay, that's relationship tip 101.
It's my opinion.
Don't jump through hoops.
Don't. As a man anyway, you should not be jumping through no hoops. If she's getting you to do backflips and stuff, you've already lost the game. Because the guy she does like, she's saying, okay, Wednesday works for me. Just some hints for you.
There you have it.
But anyway, so we went on a date and we was talking, and she just said to me that she finds dating Christian guys to be a joke, because she said they just don't have the experience that a lot of Christian women probably desire, but don't like all the other stuff that comes with it. So she said in her experience, Christian guys are very needy, they were very over the top. There was an urge to almost immerse themselves in the life of that woman before the time was ready. She said to me that she started dating this guy and he was talking about going to her church, meeting her pastor and all these things, and she was saying to me, whoa, slow down, like that's far too quick. We're just getting to know each other, we don't need to rush anything.
Right.
But she said because people are not really having sex outside of marriage, there's this big rush to kind of make something happen so that people can effectively start having sex. That's what she said to me. I can't comment because I'm not in this world, but
I definitely think that there's truth to that, and I think even I've had situations like that myself. The thing is that for me, prior to becoming a Christian, like I wasn't actually, I had like a very savage period in university, like where, and for me, like, well, I say this in my testimony coming to Christ, like the reason why I was sleeping with so many girls is because I just felt like alone. I felt like there was a void, and I was trying to fill that with women. But the thing is, like in that situation, there was like there was a carefreeness. Like if someone didn't message me back or didn't call back, I didn't care because I was talking to so many girls anyway.
Bro, options creates an abundance mindset.
I didn't really care because it was just like one of those ones where I'm talking to like 4 other girls anyway, so it's like I might not even remember that you haven't messaged me back.
As you should, but go on.
But as you should.
As you should.
But becoming a Christian, I feel like my mentality kind of changed to one girl and pursue that girl. And I think with that pursuit, it does kind of create like a very upfront, like what is this? Okay, let's get married, or where are we going kind of thing.
Stop you short. It creates a scarcity mindset. Go on.
I think there is definitely an element of fear, of pressure, but I remember this. I was kind of contrasting me as someone that didn't really follow God as someone that did follow God, and I can definitely see that there's been a change in myself, and where it's like I understand that argument, you know, in the sense that when you do commit yourself to one girl and you are very focused on that girl, it can give her the impression of like desperation. But this is the way I see it as a Christian guy. For me, I see that as just being intentional. Like I can talk to multiple girls, but I'm trying to give you the respect of you know, trying to see you as a wife, trying to commit towards marriage. And actually I think one thing that I've kind of got back to more recently is a more open-mindedness to like relationships, and not really just like putting all my eggs in one basket, because I think girls respect that. But I think that in that phase where I was going through like this whole one girl mentality, I was just kind of thinking to myself, like, do you want me to be a savage? Like, do you want me to like, do you want me to go back to my old ways, like of just like, cause it's magic how like you can treat girls like trash, and many of them will still like appreciate you. And it's almost like if you're not treating them in a way where they're disposable, they won't respect you. So
Speak the truth. Speak the truth.
So as a single guy, I've definitely been going through this process of thinking, like, how am I supposed to conduct myself as a Christian guy? Because it's true, like when you're with like one person and you're too intentional, maybe too early on, like a lot of girls get pressurized by that. So it just makes you think, should I go back to my worldly mentality where I'm just talking to multiple girls, I'm not too invested in one of them, they can see I have options, and appeal to them on that basis? I don't know, it kind of, for me, kind of contradicts my Christian values. And I'll just say one thing, for me, I just see like girls, it's not like a girl I'm dating, like you're my sister in Christ, so I don't want to put you in a situation. For me, this is my mentality, I don't want to put you in a situation where you're hurt because I'm building with you and I drop you out because I've gone for somebody else. This is why I try to like focus on one girl, because although there's a risk of feelings getting hurt, it's not because there's Daisy and Sarah and Susan in the background. Do you know what I mean? I really do feel like it's out of a sense of trying to do the right thing that us Christian guys get ourselves in this situation where there's one girl that we're trying to pursue to marriage. But it seems that many Christian girls want us to maintain a worldly mentality when it comes to relationships, because, you know, people say things like Christian guys don't have game, they don't have source, and maybe, but I think it's because we've tried to allow our convictions as Christians to inform how we approach relationships.
I think it's a catch-22, because I think the guys who have come from the guys who grew up kind of living the life they wanted to live and go to church probably still have some of the game and the making from living in that world. But I think if you've just grown up in the church your whole life and you've been committed to that lifestyle, you probably won't have any game. And what I wanted to say was, I think what we tend to forget is we as human beings are still animals, and we still have we are still animals, and we still have an intrinsic nature. And when people are Christians, sometimes there's an attempt to forget that intrinsic nature. For example, women like men with options. There's just no way around this, right? Every woman wants to date a man who she feels other women want. So even if you're in the church or not, you need to understand this basic fundamental. So you need to understand this basic fundamental principle. So if you out of shape, your ass is broke, you ain't doing nothing, talking about I believe in God, the girl's still gonna leave you. She'll probably say, what? I don't see what's funny about this. She'll probably say God didn't want this for my life and go and find a rich guy, fam. So
my spirit didn't agree with that relationship.
Yeah,
you know that Christian lingo.
It didn't agree with the relationship, but it's not that it didn't agree. It's just that as a female, her intrinsic nature couldn't get with the scenario. So that's just the honest truth. We need to be honest about it. Like, as men, even if you're a Christian, you still have a desire for sex. You're still going to see a beautiful woman and it's still going to make it hard. There's no way around it. What you can do when you have those values is you can control acting on your urges or your impulses, but it's not necessarily a case of suppressing those urges or impulses, because they're real things. They exist. You just have to have a rational mind about how you want to move forward with those urges. At least that's what I find. And even not operating in your world, sometimes I say to myself, it's not really worth it, and then you make an exit. It's just that simple. And to your point about dealing with one person, I think people always take it the wrong way. But I always say to myself, businesses don't have one client. Successful businesses. And if you are dating in general, I feel like until someone proves they're worthy of some type of upgrade or really moving forward with them, you should be keeping your options open, because if you just bundle yourself in with one option, you could go too far down the line and realize this person isn't actually for you. So you kind of got to keep it light until it makes sense to get to a point where you can give more of yourself.
Yeah, do you know what? I do definitely feel like I'm becoming a lot more open-minded. I think it goes back to our conversation about how God's sovereignty absolves us from our responsibility. Like in Christianity, I do think there's a whole idea of, you know, the one. And I think prior, I kind of approached in the sense that, how can I explain it?
The one doesn't exist, by the way.
I actually don't think the one exists, and I think as of recent I've become a lot more liberal in my views. But I do think a lot of my past relationships had me kind of heavily investing in this one individual. Like literally to the point where if I meet a girl that I'm really involved with, I cut everybody else off and I just focus on that one person. But I started to realize.
So you pedestaled him?
Yeah, I think you could say that. And I kind of subconsciously applied the one mentality to that person. And maybe, I don't know. I can only kind of speculate, but I do definitely think there's a sense in which I should have maintained more of an openness and more of just like a carefree, because I feel like one of the things that contributed to that failure was the fact that it was just that pedestal mentality. And it's crazy because although I definitely had like a quote-unquote Christian upbringing, I wasn't always a Christian. So I did have phases where I was, you know, going through those
emotions.
Yeah, like when there's multiple girls in the picture. Literally, I remember there was one time, I met the most amazing girl, right? And I had slept with another girl the day that she showed interest in me. Like that was when my mindset was that this girl was beautiful, lovely girl. But my mind was just in such a place where
there's other women out there.
Yeah, like I literally, this is the kind of girl that I would have married, right? But because I was in that mentality at the time, I met her, I wasn't pursuing her, but I'd shown an interest in her, she wasn't down. And actually, I think because she saw that I wasn't that invested, I think that's what kind of made her come round eventually. But I wasn't really, in fact, I don't want to detail the story. But basically what happened is that she'd invited me somewhere, right? And she'd invited one of my other friends to go there as well. And when I saw that she'd invited me and my other friend, as soon as I went there, I bounced. Then she came to my flat and then basically
this right here is some Mac stuff. That's what we want to hear. That's what we want to hear. But fam, listen.
But wait. That's when she told me that she was interested.
Yeah, good.
But but the funny thing is, after she told me she was interested, I slept with another girl the day after. That was the end of our relationship. But the thing that I want to take from that is that in that place where I wasn't invested, I feel like there's something about the psychology of a woman that resonates with her when she can see that a guy is interested but not fully invested in her.
She wants your validation. And this was another thing that was really interesting, right? When I was in the church, there's a big push on marriage, like a really big push on marriage, especially amongst young men. You need to be married, you need to be married. But I remember saying to the pastor, I feel like you're setting these young men up to fail. And he said, what do you mean? I said, you encourage them to get married when they're broke, they have nothing to offer, they haven't really dealt with any women, they have no real experiences. So you have these guys that go from never really dating any woman to then all of a sudden being married and coming to your place of worship every week seeking marital advice on how they should be behaving. And what you really should be telling them is become the kind of men that women want to be around. Become the kind of man that when women see you, they want to do things. I know in Christian culture there's a big thing about submitting, if I'm correct.
Right.
Like women should submit. But the question I always pose is, are you the kind of man that a woman wants to submit to?
Okay, I feel you on that.
So if you're not doing the things that you need to be doing, why should she submit? She's gonna go to the guy that does drive the nice car, that does stay in shape, that does have money, that actually knows how to maintain his own life outside of dealing with her.
Sometimes I just wanna float away.